Hey everybody, and welcome to another Tausken review. Today we'll be taking a look at Gibbous, another point-and-click adventure game. Gibbous tries to blend both comedy with Cthulhu cult-like aspects. Gibbous has a pretty interesting way of how it blends its story. You play as two different characters instead of one as your main character. You start off with Don Archetype, who's an older character who constantly remarks on how times have changed, how he doesn't understand technology and using new norms, and all that kind of stuff in a sort of stereotypical way. Don is quickly taken away after going to a library that explodes from a bomb he visits, and boom, you're now playing as Buzz Kerwin instead. Buzz is a much younger character and clearly set up as a contrast for Don Archetype, who's a much older character. Buzz ends up taking a book and actually turns his cat into a talking cat, which sets off the whole game's emotions really going on as you're trying to undo his mistakes. Throughout the game, you'll be swapping between the two different characters and alternating chapters. The overall story is just okay, I'd say. The first third of the game is really a slog, and the writing is not good. The humor falls completely flat. Buzz Kerwin is very cringeworthy, and it's awkward and just hard to listen to him. This is made worse by the fact that his voice actor just sucks and is so boring and bland and generic. Fortunately, the second and third portions of the game gets much better, and the segments that you play as Don Archetype are much more interesting because his character is much more significantly better written and more fun to listen to. While Buzz is still insufferable in those second and third segments, it does get better and not as bad of a problem. Fortunately, most of the side characters in the second and third portions of the game are much more interesting. There's some cool locations you'll go to that really make things kind of interesting in that regard, but that first third of the game is just painful to get through and really drags this game down. Being a point-and-click game, of course, it has tons of different puzzles. Most of them I felt like were pretty straightforward, but there was a couple that are a bit batshit insane in typical adventure game format, but it's not really a huge problem. It did feel like the game could have sometimes given you a hint or references to kind of help point the character in the right direction, but really it wasn't that big a deal. I did overall enjoy them for the most part, and they felt like they added to the experience as they should in a point-and-click game. The presentation from a graphic standpoint is great. I love the art style, the animations and the characters is great. It's very high quality. The sounds for the most part are pretty great. Kind of like I mentioned before, the voice acting is a bit hit or miss. I liked most of the side characters, but I just find Buzz Kerwin painful to deal with, which is really a bummer because in a point-and-click game, it's so important to have good voice acting and a good main character. Overall though, Gibbous is a pretty fun point-and-click adventure, though I wouldn't really say it's great. It's just like slightly above average, like at a 6 to 10 level. It's got a unique setting that helps differentiate it from others, it's got an interesting comedic and cartoony style that I also like, but it just feels like this game has so many problems in the first third of the game, and with Buzz Kerwin being a really boring and uninteresting character. If those sections were improved, this game could be a significantly more fun game to play. But overall, I would recommend it if you're just interested in this kind of a game where you like comedic elements, maybe Cthulhu type of stuff, cult-like kind of things, and you like point and clicks. This might be your jam.